time for a sewing tutorial. Okay, I'm gonna start with felt because it's a very, very easy material to work with, and a really big needle because that makes it easier to work with. And I keep my needles in my tomato. This helps me keep track of them. It also keeps them sharp if you need to sharpen them, and it is annoying when they get dull because they won't go through the fabric. You stick it in the strawberry and that's gonna sharpen your needle up. Okay, I have my needle, I have my fabric, okay, I keep embroidery, floss, remnants sorted by color in jars. We are gonna use we're gonna use a really dark color so that you can see contrast between the two. So these are my like brown, black colors. So let's grab this chocolate brown. I don't need a lot, so a remnant works just fine. Ooh. All right. This is like the kind of stuff that I'll have like a whole mess of materials in a pile left from a project. So I'll put it in like a little bag, and then I'll take it with me to, say, like the school pickup line. I have to like sit in my car and wait to pick my son up, and then I'll just sit there and I'll wind these things up and get them nice and organized while I just sit there. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this off of here. Look at that. Look how much that is from a remnant. Okay. They're easy to keep if you have a system. It's easier to be more resourceful when you have systems. All right, I did put my tongue on this and get it so that it's nice and all the little fibers are together now. Okay, I'm going to thread my needle like that and pull it through. This is like the hardest part. People have a hard time with that. Oops, that's the wrong tool. If you have a hard time threading your needle, you can use a tool like this. And I'm going to pull this out and show you how to use it. It has a bigger eye. See? Can you see that? Can you see that? It's really fine, but let's see if I can get up close. Hello. Can you adjust? No, not so much. Okay. Well, it's got a bigger hole. You stick the wire through the eye of the needle. Then you take your thread and you put it in this wire loop and pull that through like that. And then you pull it through your needle, and you have a longer piece of your thread. Okay, that's the thread you're working with. And then you have the tail. And you want the tail to go all the way through the needle like that. When you're done, pull this out, okay? And now you have your needle, okay? Let me see if I can show this. Your needle has a tail. It has a long thread, and it has a long thread, and it has a tail. You're going to take the longer one and you're going to tie it in a knot. Okay, so I looped it around, and then I'm going to cross it in. I might have to draw some diagrams for this. And I pulled it through a couple times so it's weaved in there. Okay? And then we're going to pull it into a knot like that. Okay? Now I have the knot, and that's gonna stop the thread from going through the fabric, okay? All right, now I'm going to fold this, I'm gonna fold this felt in half, and I'm going to, I can sew it from either, I'm gonna sew it from here. If I don't want, okay, wait, let me show you. I'm going to put the needle through the fabric, and I'm going to pull it all the way until the knot stops, okay? And then you're gonna make a stitch, okay? So you take the needle, move it a little bit, so you're gonna make a line here. Okay, stick that into the fabric and pull it through, and now you have a stitch. So if this is the front where you want the stitch to show, if the stitch matters, with embroidery floss, typically you're doing it to make it look that way, but we're using it especially because it's thicker than regular thread, so we can see it really well. Then you want to, ooh, whoops, ha! It didn't go all the way through to the back. My bad. Okay, ignore that. Okay, if this is the back, then the space for your next stitch, the space between is not going to be as wide as the last time you put it through the fabric, okay? So when it comes through, oops, when it comes through, it's closer to this stitch here. And now we're gonna pull it through, and then now we're gonna make a nice long space for the next stitch, okay? So here, you're making a space for the next stitch, pull it through, 2 stitches. Okay, now we're gonna go back here again and just put a little space in, push it through, pull it through. Oops, the tail got caught. Did you see that? The tail got caught. I'm just pulling the tail out. It's okay. It's fine. And then we're gonna do the next one. And make the stitch. And then we put the next stitch in the back. Get the needle through. If you don't like where it is, pull the needle out and fix it. You can do that before you pull it through, see? And then pull it through. And then do your next stitch. And then again. All right, so now you're going to sew this all the way down. If that was confusing, you can start it over, start the video over, or you can slow it down. I can tell you that most of my students that have never sewed, they need to start it over, look at it again, do stop frames, slow it down. That's pretty common. Most beginners need to look at it multiple times. It takes a little time to get used to it. And you're just going to continue to sew all the way down to the end. Okay. Now when I get down to the end here, whoops, I got a little bit too close to the edge, but when I get down to the end, I'm going to, hold on a sec, let me fix that so it's not confusing. You pull it through, and then what you're gonna do is you're going to put your needle in just the back piece of fabric and then stick it through like that. See that? And you're gonna make a loop. So you're gonna pull this through, hold on to your loop so that you can get your tail through. Need your tail to go through. Now you're gonna do another knot. This is gonna be a more clear with the needle. Take the needle, thread it through the loop. Okay? This is exactly what you did to make the knot. Take the needle, thread it through the loop. I usually do it 3 times. Take the needle, thread it through the loop, and then pull. You kind of have to guide it because you want the knot to be right at the fabric. And there you have it knotted. Take your fabric scissors and cut the tail. And then on this side, cut the tail. And now you have your fabric sewn together. See? If you kept sewing down this way, then you would basically have a pocket. This is called a hem. Okay, the hem is you've got 2 edges of the fabric sewn together. That's a hem. Now that is different than a seam. A seam is, let me see, what do I have? A seam, this is a seam right here. This is where you have 2 pieces of fabric and they go together. See how they go together? 2 opposite edges go together. This is a bag that my mother made me. I have a lot of bags that my mom made me, but that's a seam, okay? So a seam is where you have 2 pieces of fabric. Essentially, a seam is when you take 2 pieces of fabric and the edges are sewn together, like that. So actually, if you turn this inside out, actually that is a seam right there. That's a seam. Okay? A hem is going to be like the bottom of a skirt where you sew it. You might flip it over like this and sew that. That's a hem. Okay? Now there's another way to sew an edge. Let's see, we need, how's our thread doing? Might have another, just enough thread. Okay, so we're gonna tie another knot. We're gonna loop it through, and loop it through. Whoops. And then we're gonna pull it. All right, now, here's another kind of stitch. Put your needle through the fabric like this, and then instead of putting your stitch here, just go to the back, put your needle through, and loop it around, and now you have a different kind of stitch, and you're just always going back and putting the needle through the same way. That's giving you a different kind of stitch. Kind of looks like a bookbinding. And you can use this for a lot of different things. And it can be decorative, or it can be utilitarian, something that you need to do. I am really down to the very end of my thread. Make sure that you don't get to the point where you can't make a knot. You need to make sure that your needle, you have a tail and your needle is longer than your thread. That's how you know. I don't recommend that you go this far with your length. But I'm just being a little bit crazy. Okay. Now I'm going to make a knot. So I looped it through again on the back. And then I'm tying it, looping it through to make a knot. Okay? There. I'm going to cut this tail here. And now you have, this is a totally different stitch. There you go. Another stitch technique. Let's say that you're making something and both sides of the fabric really matter and you don't want the knot to show up. So what you do is you can actually put your needle through the top layer, and that's going to hide the tail. And then you can put whichever stitch you want to do. You put your stitch in, and then you get all your stitches done. I apologize, my dog is really excited about something. I'm gonna have to go quiet him in just a minute. Good thing this is very small. Okay, so I'm stitching it all the way down. And again, I don't want the knot to show. I'm going to stick it back in between, loop it through, make a knot, and pull. Now I need to cut the tail on both sides, and there now you don't have any of that bulky knotting in there.